Hello, and welcome back to Hold On, I'm Talking Brother. My name is Joe Greenwood, and you're listening to our preview of UFC Fight Night, Imavov versus Strickland, and we're right back in there. We're back in the UFC Apex, and Tom Ballum, I can sense it. The tingling excitement. We've had to wait a good 3 or so weeks for a fight card, and my word, have they not delivered on this one.
Well, Joe, I don't know about that. You've seen the meme with Escobar from Narcos staring out into the rain, a lost soul. That's been me, Joe, the last 3 weeks. So even though it's a Strickland main event, I'm ready for it.
All right, fair enough. We're going to go straight into this, listeners. Of course, there's been a lot of news since we've last been on, but let's talk about the fights first. We'll get to the news later. Of which there is plenty to dive into. Let's start with this main event. A last-minute replacement, Nassourdine Imavov will face Sean Strickland. Strickland stepping in for Kelvin Gastelum. Normally, it's Gastelum stepping in at the last second, but this time he's decided, you know what, I'm going to do what everyone else does. You know, I'll step in and face Robert Whittaker at the last second. You know, I'll face, who else is someone else that he got beat up by recently? You know, he just gets beaten up for a Cannonier last second. Yeah, I'll face Cannonier. Who cares? But he said, you know what, I'm having my turn now. He drops out. Sean Strickland comes in, says, I can't make 185, but let's do it at light heavyweight instead. So he faces Nassourdine Imavov, streaking French middleweight. Tom, what's your sense of this fight? Are you feeling like this is just going to be another Sean Strickland snooze fest?
Well, first a little comment on Gastelum, and I hope he rests up and gets well soon. I don't know if you saw that he succumbed to a mouth injury.
Yeah, I've not seen that before.
No, but it looks pretty nasty. Stay off of Twitter after dark, because faces like that, Gastelum, it's the stuff of nightmares. Don't know what's going on there, but hope he returns. I'm bummed out that fight's not happening. I was very interested to see how Gastelum would fare against Imavov. Imavov, as you say, he's streaking, he's running. Now, the last man he ran into was Joaquin Buckley of this here podcast, or soon to be. That's my last pick for 2023, by the way. Joaquin Buckley to join the pod.
Yes.
Now,
third mic.
Now, look, Joe, there are some similarities between Joaquin Buckley and Kelvin Gastelum. Unfortunately, not in the powwow, the pizzazz, the chant, but in the tiny frame.
Yeah.
For
the welterweight frame.
Buckley, the welterweight frame, yeah, exactly. And Buckley, he started getting to Imavov later on in that third round. I would like to see how a more cultured boxer in Gastelum would do. Would you be certain of an Imavov victory if that matchup did happen?
I would favour an Imavov victory in that, but there's an intangible that I was thinking about as well, is that we would have seen Kelvin Gastelum probably fighting for his UFC place, and what that would have done to his performance. Because the thing with Gastelum is that, like, he kind of goes in there and he kind of fights the same game plan as everyone else. He's kind of got these like long sort of looping hands where he doesn't really throw, and then when he goes into actual throw, he has that Darren Till sort of issue, which is, I've got these wavy hands, my hands are sort of flapping around. It's like, all right, now I'm going to throw, and I get him into my striking position. So once you learn his striking position, it's, you know, the surprise isn't really there for Gastelum. So it would have been interesting to see that, and also against someone like Imavov, who is on the come up, and this would have been a good name for him. And also Gastelum probably would have forced the issue in a way that Strickland won't, in that he will try to push to get inside, and he will try to engage in those sort of clinch spaces, which is actually somewhere that Imavov would most want to be. Strickland, on the other hand, happy to fight on the outside, happy to sort of pick away that jab from outside, low leg kicks, which would then factor into it. And that is something that I think will factor into this fight, because Imavov doesn't really check them. Like, Ian Heinisch was just able to throw and land them without much coming back. And same for the Buck. You know, when he was doing those 9-shot combos to get in, he was sometimes finishing with low leg kicks, and Imavov was just taking it.
And Joe, by the third round, what we saw is Imavov starting to wilt, and Buck was on the end of those combos, finding Imavov. I mean, I think we both left that fight thinking 5 rounds. Buckley might have just got it done.
Yeah.
Now, we got 5 rounds here. Strickland, known for his cardio. I don't know if I could guarantee the win for Imavov here. I would like to see how he stands up in those later rounds. I think he'll feel assured and confident as he did in Paris. I think he'll look very good early going, but I think Strickland will frustrate him. I don't think he'll be... We know he's hard to hit. He's right there, but he's hard to hit. Cannonier couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And I thought Cannonier would land that big shot. Never really got there.
No.
Strickland's very good at measuring that distance, very good at rolling with punches, very good at just staying just outside. So I've got to think, if Imavov's there going to style on him, thinks he's superior, he's got that mon ami, that French arrogance to him.
That je ne sais quoi.
Yeah, certain je ne sais quoi. I think Strickland might just upset him later on. A little sneaky feeling about that.
I mean, Strickland's a much more difficult test than Gastelum. I think that's fair to say. I mean, we there's maybe a part of us that still holds on to that memory. Hold on. I'm remembering, brother, of Gastelum's finest moment, which was that defeat to Adesanya, where he just emptied the jug and took years off his life in that search for glory, and came up short. But it was a tremendous performance against Adesanya. And I don't know, it's going to be hard to see. I mean, I think if Strickland can keep it at that jab boxing range, I think he could probably pull away, win like rounds 2 to 5 quite easily. It's going to be interesting to see, though, if Imavov can get into that clinch space and work the clinches from there, throwing knees, throwing elbows from there, maybe getting in some trips to takedowns from there. When he finished Shabazian on the ground with that mounted crucifix, I doubt he'll get into that position against Strickland, who is a pretty good wrestler. But you never, ever know. I mean, when watching Imavov, I've always been impressed by how clean his striking is, but sometimes he just leaves his chin. He leaves his chin up there sometimes. He just doesn't go back, doesn't sort of close the door in the combinations, doesn't throw something to stop the guy coming back. So, but going forward, he can be very slick. 3-4 shot combinations, which is sometimes rare to see. In ranked middleweight fighters. So unless you're, the Dricus Duplessis going in a straight line, here's 10 shots in a row. One of them will hopefully land. So, but yeah,
in short, Joe, there's I mean, there's a lot to actually pick from this fight. They're both ranked. As I said previously, felt that Strickland did win against Cannonier, of course, by the thinnest of margins, and we commented extensively on that fight. We're talking a lot about Strickland again, but my point is, it's a matchup for me that makes sense. It's okay.
It's an okay matchup. I'm going to lean to Imavov. I'm going to go Imavov by decision. I think he'll be able to do enough in those first 3 rounds. But that's why I'm sort of leaning towards. I get the sense that you're backing your boy. The red, white, and blue is pouring from your heart, and you're backing Strickland.
Hold on. Quick disclaimer here for all the listeners out there. Strickland is not my boy. I most certainly do not want my name attached to any comments that he may make. But I lent for Cannonier. Strickland, I wouldn't say he impressed me in that fight, but I had to give him his due. He didn't get clipped. He didn't get Poatan left hooked. And all right. I think should go in as an underdog. I haven't checked the odds, but I'll
minus.
I mean,
minus 115 Imavov, minus 105 Strickland.
Oh, okay. If I was having those odds, I'd have Imavov. But I'm just saying, watch the fight, guys. There is something to see there.
For sure. Now, if Strickland loses this fight, that's 3 in a row. And I think that'd be him sort of done at the top end of middleweight. I know this is technically a light heavyweight fight, but this is like that Paulo Costa Vittori main event where it was done at light heavyweight. This is a middleweight fight for all intents and purposes. And I think this would be a good step up for Imavov, and actually might even get him into sort of title contender status if he does win this fight. You'd be looking at the likes of Vittori at that stage, most likely, or the winner of Vittori versus Dolidze in March would be the most likely opponent for the winner of this.
Yep, definitely. That's another step on the road to a title shot. Can't deny
enticing,
that.
Isn't it?
But next up, Joe. The guy's not in the title picture. A man who is on a 3-fight slide, Dan Ige. You're not a big fan.
I don't think he lives up to the 50k nickname. And particularly not recently. 3 decision losses, all unanimous. 1 to Zombie, 1 to Josh Emmett, 1 to Movsar Evloev. I'm not the biggest Dan Ige fan. He had that kind of dodgy split decision win over Edson Barbosa in his debut at featherweight. Yeah. I've seen his ceiling.
Barbosa's featherweight debut. That was, yeah. It's definitely, there's a ceiling on it, and it's outside the top 10. But Joe, I got to ask you, Damon Jackson.
Yes.
Courtesy of Wikipedia, I see that this man has fought 6 times in the UFC. Coming off a performance of the night against Pat Sabatini. Well,
he's had 2 runs in the UFC. He's had 2 runs in the UFC. I mean, his debut in 2014, he lost to Yancy Medeiros, then had a no contest against Ronnie Jason, and then a draw against Levan Makashvili. That's going to get you sent back to the regionals. But he's come back. He got a win over Mirsad Bektic, and he's one of these guys who, throughout COVID, fought regularly. He's got some nice wins on there. The one against Pat Sabatini in particular from September last year was very impressive. But there's a bit of a mark against him that I think some people are going to look at. I think it's no mark at all. First round knockout from Ilia Topuria against Jackson that maybe makes people think there's a bit of a ceiling on him. But I like Jackson. Aggressive, forward, front foot fighter. He's going to bring the action, and I think this is exactly the sort of dance partner that's going to, get the best out of him. I think Dan Ige will just stand there and trade with him.
He's there to brawl.
He is there to brawl.
He's down to scrap.
He's down to scrap, and I think that this is a good combination. I would expect Jackson to get the win. I think he's got more tools. I think he's got better wrestling from there. And then again, I just think about that Calvin Kattar main event for Dan Ige, where he was a bit pedestrian, and Kattar even took him down, and that's not really his game at all. So we've seen the ceiling of Ige. 4 defeats in a row. I think you might get your marching orders not soon after that. What else have we got on this, Tom?
Yeah,
what else is calling out to you?
Joe, I'm saying, hold on, I'm talking, brother. Official rules are if you lose 3 in a row, you're out of the rankings. Out of the rankings, and you've got to work your way back in. That is where Dan Ige should be. Now, look, next we have to talk about Kopylov versus Soriano. There might be some names that don't jump out of the page, but hold on. Kopylov, he's been fun. I remember his fight against DeChirico. I think promptly retired DeChirico, is that right, from the sport?
Yeah, well, this is the thing, was that Kopylov he'd lost his first 2 fights in the UFC, and this is DeChirico come on, mate, get this nice win here. And then Kopylov knocked him out in the 3rd round after losing the first 2 rounds, and it was looking a bit desperate for him. He faces Puna Soriano. Soriano, do you remember his last fight?
I certainly do.
Against, well, not our boy, but certainly a curio for us, Dolce Lungiambula. They both had come off 2 defeats in a row to then win 1 back. 1 and 2 in the last 3. Do you know what I think these two are fighting for? I think they're fighting for boy status. Whoever wins this, I think he's going to get a little ember, a little flicker of love from us, because I think Kopylov's kind of weird. He's kind of really scrawny for this division, isn't he?
He's tough though, Joe.
Yeah,
he's one of those wiry guys.
Beating. Yeah, he's taken some severe beatings.
My distinct. If I close my eyes and I think about Roman Kopylov, I feel slightly uncomfortable. But what I see, Joe, is I see his nose just in the middle is just it's closer to his face than it's not really protruding in the way we're used to noses doing. That's what I see, and I think we'll get more of that. I mean, these guys, again, they like to trade. It could be a fun fight. I'm not going to give Soriano too much credit for his knockout over Lujambula, but I do remember...
Wait, hold on. What's a bigger win? A win over Lujambula or De Chirico?
De Chirico for me.
Because he beat Buckley.
Yeah, and I don't know. Lujambula, look, we've already given you one. Hold on, I'm talking brother rule, which is lose 3 fights throughout the UFC. The next one, some wisdom for you listeners out there. You lose to Lujambula, hang him up, because that man is extremely limited. A lot of fun, but extremely limited. For
sure. Yeah, I'm leaning towards Soriano to get this done. Personally,
I'll take the other side. I'll have Kopylov.
Good for you. Now, Caitlin Vieira is facing Raquel Pennington.
Right.
Also, we've also got Umar Nurmagomedov against Ronnie Barcelos.
Hold on. We did get some fan mail last year. Let's not brush past it.
Please don't say year.
Featherweight or bantamweight.
Yeah.
They want it, Joe. Come on, give us a little background on these ladies. What are you expecting? Some fun in the ring?
I don't know. I mean, Pennington's the one who got she the one who got smashed by Nunes in that title fight, and they were just like, why did this continue?
Yes.
The ground and pound.
2018. Yes.
She main evented the pay-per-view, Raquel Pennington. Dark, depressing days. All
right.
Caitlin Vieira, though, has got some nice wins. She's beat, a washed Misha Tate and a washed Holly Holm. Like, there's
split decision over Holly Holm.
Yeah. Was that a main event? I'm guessing that was a main event. Actually, it was a main event. That
Holly
fight.
Holm doesn't do anything else.
Yeah, I did not watch that fight. I can guarantee you that. That's no wonder it's not popping in my mind.
Joe, listen. About a minute ago, you said something that excited me.
Right.
And then I cut you off.
I'll bring that up in a second. Can I just float this idea to you? How about we get rid of women's bantamweight and we get rid of women's featherweight, right? And we introduce a new division, which is women's open weight, right? And it's 135 and up.
Gabby Garcia, you're saying you wanna see her camp in the UFC?
Yes, I want to see that. What do you say?
You're the expert, and I go along with you as my co-host. Now back to what you said that excited me, Joe. One of those words, it was Raoni, and the other one was Barcelos. And you said two more words I liked a lot. Umar Nurmagomedov. Tell me more about that.
I mean, now we had a slight argument here the other week. Umar Nurmagomedov, the kicking Nurmagomedov, right? 15-0. Undefeated. Has come into the UFC. And it's kind of got the feel of the other Dagestani lads of this guy feels inevitable, doesn't it? He feels inevitable in the way that Makhachev did, the way that Khabib did. He does feel inevitable. And Barcelos, he was like a bit of like a former, this guy's got something to him. He could maybe be a bit of a contender. He beat Saeed Nurmagomedov. He's got some nice wins, but the way that the bantamweight is that you get 2 defeats, you're out of there, brother.
Old news.
You ain't even looking at a number. As you said, ranked. We need to get 25 because Barcelos may be scraping into that. Like that's what we're talking about here. He's facing Umar Nurmagomedov, who I'm actually surprised he took this fight. I mean, I'm guessing he's not getting many options, and Barcelos is thinking like, why not? If I get a win over this guy, I could. Vault myself back up there, but this is going to be fascinating because Nurmagomedov obviously has that wrestling to fall back on, but it's the kicking that I'm really excited about. Long rangey kicks, nice sharp angles from there that he throws off there, and actually angles off there as well. Mostly kicking from an orthodox stance as well, but can switch as well. Barcelos though likes to move forward, get into clinch positions, and work his way to the ground from there. If this does get to the ground, I'm expecting fireworks, and I cannot wait for it.
Yeah, jiu-jitsu specialist Barcelos. Now, you mentioned he beat the kicking Nurmagomedov Saeed. Joe, that was his only loss in the UFC. Saeed
Is
Nurmagomedov, yeah. only loss in, well, what are we looking at? 7 fights now.
Oh
so
God.
I think we should keep some respect on the name of Raoni Barcelos. He did disappoint me against Victor Henry in particular. It was a tough battle with Timur Valiev, and I thought both men came out looking better for it. Unfortunately, Valiev has fallen by the wayside. Much like you said, you lose a fight or two and you're gone, especially if you're from the East. Plenty of those lads to replace you. But he came back with a pretty comprehensive win over Trevin Jones back in October. I don't think this man is done. You're talking about a silver medalist in the Brazilian National Championships in Jiu-Jitsu.
That's in the gi as well, which is kind of like the real, like, that's the top level. Like we see like your Gordon Ryans in the no gi and whatnot, but Gordon Ryan's even said if he went into the gi, he would get destroyed pretty quickly. So the gi is where it's at if you're going to be like a medalist. Yeah,
right. So I'm saying, I'm not sure it's as simple as Makhachev versus Oliveira in that, Sambo beats Jiu-Jitsu. I don't think that has been finalised yet.
This is the first test, isn't it, of like Umar?
Yeah, Joe, I mean, I didn't want to undermine what you were saying, as in that he's got that kind of, he's ready to be crowned. For me, I've not seen a calibre of opposition that I'm ready to award him that. Now look, Brian Kelleher at featherweight.
My boy, Boom Kelleher.
No, I'm not having that. And then Nate Maness, not having that either. Yeah. So this could be the one.
Can we talk about this just briefly? A little side note. Do you see that Khabib has retired from MMA full stop? Like he's just not involved with coaching anymore. He's getting rid of Eagle FC. Like he's completely stepping away from all elements of the sport.
Has the man himself said that on English media?
Said it on Instagram in Russian, then having that translated. Javier Mendez was asked about it, and he said he doesn't see his family. Khabib doesn't see his family enough, and he thinks that that's the reason why, or knows that's the reason why that he's doing it. So it's sad that his presence will no longer be around us, because even those little tidbits that we get of Khabib, and you see just that insight he has, you can just see that he just does have that mind for it above everyone else, and it'd be it'll be a shame basically that he won't.
I mean, he does have form for making unexpected decisions and sticking to them. So yeah, I mean it's crazy actually. Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. But I'm interested to see the implications for Makhachev going forwards.
Absolutely. Now, Tom, I said this on, I think it was on our wrap-up episode for 2022. And I said to you, give me a card, any card, and give me some bantamweights I've never heard of, and I can guarantee I'm going to have a good time. Well, that's what we've only bloody well got. Got Javid Basharat, who I have seen. He has fought in the UFC a couple times. Against Mateus Mendoza, I'm going to guess that's how you say it in the Portuguese styling, making his debut in the UFC. I mean, he had a series on the Contenders, fight on the Contender series, but making his debut there. I mean, this guy, Mendoza, he's got knockout power in bantamweight. And by the way, a couple sub 1 minute knockouts, including that one on the Contender series in which he sent Ashiek Ajim flying with a right cross and then followed it with some disgusting hammer fists. My word, can't wait to see this fight here. Basharat, more of a sub-specialist, ground specialist, and ground out a couple wins. Based out of the UK is Basharat, and going to be excited to see how that one plays out from there.
Yeah, Joe, I think you called it just right. That was my take as well, although I don't have the familiarity of having seen his fights with Tony Gravely and Trevin Jones, but I credit you for upholding the professional side of the pod and watching those deep on some Apex undercard somewhere. I'll be tuning into this one though. I think you've done our man Basharat a bit of a disservice when talking about his record. A bit of a submission specialist, Joe. You're talking about if I look up, he's now 12-0, Joe. I'm struggling to find fights that went past the first round.
Oh, yeah, they're both undefeated as well. I forgot to mention that. 2 undefeated bantamweights on the prelims of this card.
Not a Wikipedia page between them. Let's go. One of them's from Afghanistan and fighting out of the UK. The other one's Brazilian. Yeah.
We've also got the return of Charles Johnson, who you'll remember from
his loss.
UFC. Yeah, his loss.
That's his legacy so far. Losing to Makayev.
Yeah, Makayev. But he did get a split decision win over Zumagulov in November. He's back to face Jimmy Flick in the flyweight division. Interested to see if Johnson can start to build a bit more momentum at flyweight. Kind of struggled past Zumagulov, had to sort of come down from a round down to eke it out.
Damning, Joe, for me. Zumagulov, he's not at it for me.
Well,
so
the thing is that I was impressed by Johnson in that loss to Makayev of just like he just denied Makayev any progression, but he just couldn't get past that first level of engagement in the grappling. Like Makayev will get to that takedown, get you down, be working it. But be interested to see if Johnson can progress from there. Overall, pretty poor card. But
well, Joe, hold on, a little nod to Jimmy the Brick Flick.
Go on.
Did you see this fight? He
fought
fight? Cody Durden back in 2020. Again, deep on a UFC fight night in the Apex. Joe, he only went and won by flying triangle.
Oh, my word.
Went back to watch this because I was quite interested to see what this flying triangle might look like. I've got to be honest, didn't remember it just off Jimmy the Brick Flick's name. But what I saw there, Joe, is Brick marching your man down, your man being Cody Durden, and throws a head kick, left head kick. Durden kind of eats it and launches forward in response.
Yeah.
Almost like he's tree topping Jimmy Flick.
Yeah.
Jimmy Flick only goes and adapts to that, throws up the other leg, catches him in a flying triangle. They end up on the mat.
Word.
Doesn't let it go, and he gets the submission. Good stuff, Joe, and it was his third submission in a row. I think this could be, it could be fun again.
Excellent. Oh, I'm looking forward to that now. Looking forward to see if Jimmy Flick can. Do you think he can repeat that sort of level of flying triangles?
I'm ready for it. I'm here for it. Let's go.
My word. Anything else on this card, really? No.
I mean, Joe, I can say that I had to do some Googling in preparation for this. Now, let me just find the page.
Are you on about Mateusz Rebecki?
There's a few fellas. Now, look, Claudio Ribeiro, depending where you look, Joe, he's either a tennis player from Brazil or he plays for Vitória Guimarães in Portuguese football.
Oh, wow.
Or if you look far enough, you find some relation to MMA. If this is the same man, I'm interested. Okay,
fair enough.
Yeah, but I think that sums up the card. There's not a lot of name recognition to be had overall.
No. Right, let's talk about the news. Now, listen, we had a debate. We're not. I can't believe we're talking about this. We had this debate before recording. Are we going to talk about this? We kind of have to talk about this. Dana White slapped his wife in a nightclub on New Year's Eve, and all hell broke loose after that. Me and Tom have decided. Go on.
Well, it was muffled hell. It's a bit verboten to discuss. Not widespread condemnation out there. I think we're ready to go out there and condemn this, guys. Don't hit your partner, man or woman. Just don't do that.
Yeah,
violence is not the answer.
I think that's something that people seem to have maybe forgotten, that like just can't, like, just hitting someone's just no, unless you're getting paid for it. I don't understand doing that. You know, it's.
Well, there's I mean, there is that angle. We do know that Dana was trying to get this power slap show.
Oh, you think this is like viral marketing?
I think, I don't know who it is. I'm assuming I'm hoping that our listenership and fans of power slap. On the Venn diagram, there is no middle circle where they meet.
Just
not
even coming close. Yeah.
So we'll see if the subscribers drop after this, Joe. But I don't think that was going to be a huge success. But it's certainly been in the news now, in that it doesn't seem to be happening, or it's been delayed.
It's been delayed by a week. So they don't care that much, do they?
Are we going to see? Is this Khabib jumping off the cage? Is this promo? Are we going to see it on the?
I mean, oh my god, I didn't even think about
main
that.
event.
By the way, are we going to review this? Are we going to review this? Come on, we have to watch the first one.
Yeah.
We have to watch the first one, don't we? Or at least I have to, because I'm a freak that likes to see the worst of everything. Joe, I'm not going to watch Power Slap. I'm not going to do that, and I don't like it as an idea. It's pretty weird, isn't it?
That is true. Like, that is the
bottom of the barrel.
Yeah.
Do you know what? It's funny. It's funny that you say like these things or whatever else, but like what you described of Dana White goes into a nightclub to slap his wife to promote his Power Slap League. That's pure pro wrestling. And I know you dislike pro wrestling. It's hold on, Tom's shaking his head there. Were you watching New Japan Pro Wrestling on January 4th?
I don't have an entrenched position. I'm not a wrestling hater, but I don't watch it.
Okay, fair enough. I don't know. I mean, yeah, I think it was also a bit weird that people were like. It's not weird that people said this, but it's weird that people expected Dana to step down. Like, did you really think that guy was going to step down from his position?
I mean, given what he said in the past, given the slightly travelling history of MMA fighters abusing their partners, in particular men abusing their female partners, it has to be said. Given all he said on that in the past, I'm not going to say I expected him to step down, but it's a bad look, Joe. It's a bad look.
What if he just went away for a couple months, maybe? The thing is that...
Politician style.
Yeah, maybe.
And the people made him come back. They cheered for him. We need Dana to fix this.
But it's weird, the reaction is that people seem to think the UFC is Dana. Like, that he is the main draw, that, we watch the fights and then we want to hear what Dana has to say about it. And it's like... For the most part, I don't really care what he has to say. I don't know about you.
Yeah, well, no,
apart from like the real freak instance.
Yeah, we diverge here big time. I mean, I can't say this in the context of what he's just done, which obviously I condemn. But if Dana would not do this to his wife, if he would please not do that, and whatever's going on there. That should not be happening. But that aside, I enjoy Dana White. I think he is hilarious. Both laughing with him, at him. I think I do want to listen to what Dana has to say.
Right.
It's very funny, but from all angles.
Fair enough. I just okay, fine, fair enough. He is amusing.
He is a meme.
I guess so. Yeah, I guess so.
When
you see the Eddie Hearn memes and stuff like that, I feel like they're a bit forced. Whereas Dana is like, they feel so organic.
He is Kingpin. He is a Marvel character.
I see people that I know who don't even watch the UFC using Dana memes. Like, the big load one. Where it's the washing machine.
That's some funny stuff, Joe. That's some funny shit.
All right. Let's not praise Dana now within the context of this. Let's talk about this. Stephan Bonnar passed away late last year. He had struggled for a couple of years now, health problems. He had obviously seemed to have some mental issues as well that went alongside that. They're very sad, very dark days, and it's depressing to think that a guy that was that important and pivotal to the UFC's fandom in the early 2000s, mid-2000s, lived his life that way. So let's talk about the positives here. Stephan Bonnar has probably one of the most iconic fights, moments in the history of this sport. And that can never, ever be taken away from him at all. They talk about that Forrest Griffin, Stephan Bonner fight being the thing that got the UFC the next season of The Ultimate Fighter when they desperately needed it. And it did help. But the thing is that show, episode to episode, got more and more popular every single week. And they had this...
watching it.
And it was like... I remember watching it as like a 14-year-old boy. You get your first, internet connection. What's the first thing you look up? That's right, pornography. But you also look up fighting. At least that's what I go for. And if you can combine the two, my God, you've got a beautiful thing happening. Now, but I remember watching it, and I remember watching that series, and the big one being was it Koscheck versus Chris Lieben? Was that that season? And like their smack talk. That's right, isn't it? Yeah. But it had this incredible culmination of got these two guys. They seem to be the most quote normal ones in there. And they just had an absolute barroom brawl, absolute slobber knocker to put it over the top of like, this is it. This is the sport you want to be a part of. And it was incredible.
It truly. Do we know where Chris Lieben is these days? I'm worried, Joe.
Yeah, well,
there's a look of anguish when you said Chris Lieben, and then you mentioned the context of obviously difficult mental issues.
He's alive.
He's alive. Okay.
He's alive. Let's go on his Wikipedia. Has he got anything? Here we go. Personal life, legal issues. Oh my God. Okay. I'm going to go mixed martial arts. Here we go. It goes 2.1 down to 2.6. Okay, here we go. So it goes early career, The Ultimate Fighter, Ultimate Fighting Championship, retirement, Bellator MMA, unretirement, bare knuckle boxing.
Oh.
And then it goes into personal life, legal
forbidden
issues.
triangle. From UFC to Bellator to bare knuckle boxing.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Bray, he got arrested for driving under the influence and breaking into his ex-wife's apartment. So yeah, thank you for that, Tom. We were going slightly on the up.
Unfortunately, a lot of roads are leading there, and that is where the UFC has come from.
Yeah,
and hopefully not where it's going. That's all I can say.
I do worry about some of the future names that we're going to start seeing to fall, and it happened with pro wrestling, like the guys in the 2000s and up until like 2013, 14, that were just dying in their 40s, early 50s, and you're like, oh my God, this is not good. This is really, really bad. And then you take that Phil Baroni story where, beat his girlfriend to death in Mexico, and it looks like he's getting 30 to 50 years in prison. Like, my God, we have to start bracing ourselves for it, and it's sad that we have to, but
it also means we have to take a critical look at ourselves as fans of the sport. It's pretty hard to stand alongside those things. Let me move us on to slightly happier news. Talking about another former UFC fighter here, Joe. Now, I'm going to give you a quote from a recent interview with this man.
Okay.
I want you to tell me who it is.
Okay.
When talking about potential matchups in the UFC, he said that he would be hurting his leverage if he returned to the Ultimate Fighting Championship.
Oh. Wait, so he's saying if he comes back to the UFC...
Yep. His leverage is diminished. He wants to fight Jake Paul.
Oh no.
And I'll give you one final thing before I think Joe. One final quote from this man from his time in the UFC. Skill for skill, I beat Khabib.
Is this Nate?
No, this is Kevin Lee. He's been out commenting on this, Joe. Yep,
skill for skill, I beat Khabib. That's the worst thing there. Not the boxing Jake Paul thing, which... Oh my God. That is appalling, Kevin. What is wrong with you?
Yeah.
That's almost more bleak than the Phil Baroni stuff. I mean, Jesus Christ. It's a skill for skill, I beat Khabib.
Well, that's not what he said in his recent interview. That was during his potential
his heyday, fight. His prime, yeah.
His heyday when, there were some questions. There are no questions now, Kevin.
No.
You're not coming back to the UFC.
He's off to the PFL.
Don't you worry about your leverage. Well, no, good for him. I mean, honestly, it probably would. I think what he was trying to say when he was saying he's hurting his leverage is that he's lost to everybody already. If he came back, no one would pay him to fight. But the PFL is there, so I hope that works out. Joe,
if he goes to the PFL and wins $1 million and does all that, he can go back to the UFC then with a lot more leverage.
Absolutely.
Anyway, Tom, I interrupted. You
did, because you mentioned one more name. This is a rolling news hour here. Jake Paul.
Yes!
Right,
we have to talk about him now.
We have to talk about it. Sounds like, Joe, you're turning the corner here.
He is in the PFL now. He signs the PFL. And he has an equity stake in the company, which is quite something. And also, this I love. So he's doing this pay-per-view super fight league thing, where he said that 50% of the revenue of those pay-per-view cards will go to the fighters. That is tremendous. Now, we don't know what that split is. It could be 49% to Jake Paul and 1% to everyone else. But still, we could be getting to some sort of like leverage here. And also, could we start to see a true number 2 promotion in the world if the PFL get this going? Did you watch the video of Jake Paul announcing himself there?
I did.
Are you with me? Make this guy front and centre. Get him on every press conference. Get him talking.
Yeah, I mean, it's what can you say, Joe? Like you start off pouring scorn, but choo choo.
Yeah,
choo choo.
Yeah, he does.
Like credit to him in that he's I mean, he's talking about fighting MMA. He's talking about fighting Nate Diaz in boxing.
Does he fight in MMA this year?
That would be astonishing.
Yeah.
That would be astonishing. They're talking about Ben Askren. He's up for a fight again in MMA.
Let's be honest. Askren would kill him.
Yeah, I mean, right? I
would he?
I mean, surely.
No, he would. He's a 2-time Hodge champion.
It'd be. I mean, are we talking about? Was it Phil Toney, the boxer, when he came to UFC? He was taken down by.
James Toney. James Toney.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, also think about Clarissa Shields, the world champion boxer now, who has gone into MMA and fought in the PFL, and she had to fight absolute cans and struggle through those fights. That's how difficult this is. This is not an easy transition, and he's going to have to fight that level, and people aren't going to accept him for it.
No.
And then if he fight, and listen, there's no commission in the world that is making Ben Askren versus Jake Paul. Jake Paul versus Nate Diaz. That ain't happening either. Like, let's be realistic here. So, I think he's most likely going to be boxing in the PFL, I'm guessing.
Well, there are jurisdictions in the world, Joe. There are places you can go where all sorts of...
Yes,
I'm feeling.
I was about to say Mexico is calling, and I'm down for it.
I was feeling Papua New Guinea, but yeah, I mean, I've got to say he's out there. I watched it. It reached us. We are skeptics, but we watched. We like it.
Hey, listen, if he goes in there and he does it, there's nothing more I can really say apart from fair play.
Joe, I'm going to say something here. It might trigger you.
Go on.
And I know you're a sensitive soul.
Yeah.
Right. I am a bit concerned about another fighting championship taking on the UFC.
Well, it's interesting that the PFL are also on ESPN. And with this announcement of Jake Paul, they actually took direct shots at the UFC as well. Now, what is your concern? Is that you think that it's going to get diluted and we're going to start... Well, we've lost Shane Burgos to the PFL, and now we're going to start losing more.
Yeah, I am worried about that. Yeah, this... I mean, it's terrible. But as a fan, I want to see the best guys fight. I want it to be in the same divisional structure. And, I don't want people dodging uncomfortable fights too much. And, I want a lineal structure. And I just, this is what killed boxing.
And it's what will probably kill MMA if the Ali Act does come in as well.
Yeah.
It probably is going to ruin what we have right now.
Yeah.
Do you know the way the UFC get around this is by paying their fighters more? Like, simply put, none of this show and win money, flat rate. This is what you're making. We're increasing everyone's wage because they can do it. They just choose not to. Yeah. So that's how you avoid this. Now, Tom, I hinted at this news story to you before we recorded, and you were laughing already. Now, let's get a load of this. Jose Aldo, potential GOAT contender. Let me read this headline to you. Report: ex-UFC champ Jose Aldo, wife involved in government handout scandal. Wife blames, quote, snooping leftists. Basically, during COVID, the Brazilian government gave out monthly deposits that came to a total of about $120 between May and October of 2020, of which Aldo's wife happily took some of those. Why was she doing that? That was for people who were in desperate need of that money during COVID, and she took those payments. $120. Now, is the UFC pay that bad? Or was it just, here's some free money, now I'm taking it?
That's a bad look. That's a really bad look for the King of Rio, famous for its favelas and people coming up hard.
Yeah, dodgy, isn't it? It's not a good look. Not a good look at all. And they are being investigated for it.
I've got to say, that's not the news that made me laugh.
No. So obviously at that point, Jair Bolsonaro was the president of Brazil. He lost the election last year to Lula, the socialist politician. Good news. And Bolsonaro fled the country. And he has been living with Jose Aldo in Florida.
It's just like, what?
I know.
It's
weird,
twist.
isn't it?
It's a
twist.
twist.
Is a twist. Now, Tom, me and you, well, you do currently now, but me and you have had careers where we've lived abroad and for stretches, years at a time. And the advice I would get or was told was, when you settle in, do something you normally do. Do something that you really enjoy, normally do, to settle you into this new place. So it's like something familiar in a new place. Tom, we all do that. And you know what? Bolsonaro has done that as well. That's right. He's in the hospital right now for some undiagnosed reason. The man loves going to the hospital, Tom. What is wrong with him?
It's maybe a hunting accident. I've got a feeling, Joe, he will be right at home in Florida, to be honest. I wouldn't worry for him at all. Especially with Jose Aldo to protect him.
Yeah. It's quite the dream team, quite the duo, those two.
Coming to a
it's odd, isn't it?
You. Yeah, bizarre, but I'll watch the Embedded.
Yeah. Well, he's Aldo's got his first boxing match coming up, and I think it's in the beginning of March, end of February, and it's in Brazil, and there better be some cameras filming him right now, because I need to see this Bolsonaro footage, because this is going to be incredible. Absolutely incredible.
Right, Joe, is there a couple of fight announcements you wanted to round off with?
No.
Well, I've got one for you then. UFC 286.
Which one's that?
Representing the nation of Iceland.
Oh, yes.
Gunnar Nelson.
He's back.
He's stepping in. March 18th This is London, Joe. What is this? What is this? UFC 286 in London. Nelson, he likes the whole British MMA scene. And he doesn't mind the Irish MMA scene too. He's going to fight D-Rod. I like it.
I think
tough fight for Nelson.
You think so? You think D-Rod just jabs him up? Good wrestler as well, D-Rod.
Yeah,
heavy wrestler.
That's what I'm saying, Joe. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's not a gimme. Not like Takashi Sato.
Yeah, Gunnar would be a 165er, wouldn't he?
Yeah, or even you could see him down at lightweight. It's a man who doesn't cut. Doesn't believe in weight cutting. Good for him, but that means you have to fight some hulking boys. And D-Rod, he's not small. No,
he's not small. D-Rod's one of those guys as well where like he'll kind of like lull you into this kind of like range jab fight, and then he'll just uncork some huge shot coming your way. And there will be guys that can take those shots, like the Leech, who is pretty sizable welterweight, not a huge one, but whatever. But yeah, Gunnar, he's jumping in at a difficult point, but yeah. Has the nation of Iceland responded to this news, Tom? Is there palpable excitement in the streets?
Raptures, Joe. Absolute. It's cars honking.
Is that what is Gunnar up to? Does he like live in Iceland?
He does. He does. His father is a pioneer of the scene here.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's what introduced him to the sport. And yeah, well known for obviously training with Conor and John Kavanagh, coming over to Mjolnir here in Iceland. Have a new facility in Reykjavik now, which is all very glamorous. They've certainly come up.
Wow.
It's not the underground scene anymore. It's the posh place.
Right. Okay. Fair
So
enough.
yeah, people will get behind him for sure. He definitely has national appeal. He transcends the boundaries as a notable Icelander in an individual sport. Can you name any others?
Notable Icelanders
In solo sports?
The Mountain in boxing.
Yeah, so
He beat Eddie Hall.
Strong men, yeah.
Strong man indeed.
Yeah, Thor.
I was watching World's Strongest Man over Christmas, as is tradition. Got to say, those lads, what is wrong with them? That is quite the sport. Now, listen, if MMA keeps getting darker and darker, I think we should transition to being a World's Strongest Man podcast instead. I think the people would definitely latch onto that.
Could work, because a colleague of mine right now, his son was in that competition. You
No
might
way.
have watched him, yeah.
Oh my word. That's quite something. Hey, maybe we could get him on. Does he like the MMA?
I haven't met him as yet, so
Okay, fair enough. Anyway,
I'll break
listeners,
any exclusives here for Hold On I'm Talking Brother subscribers.
Thank you so much. Listeners, thank you so much for joining us. You can contact us at holdonbrother69@gmail.com. We'll be back next week to preview the pay-per-view. I forgot it's this pay-per-view next week, isn't it? Headlined by Glover Teixeira versus Jamahal Hill for the light heavyweight title, and Everson Figueiredo versus Brandon Moreno for the flyweight title, finally unifying.
Try to stay hyped.
And sadly, Gregory Rodriguez is off that card now as well. Brad Tavares
don't
dropped
say
out.
that.
Yeah.
He said, whoever wants to get it, they can get it.
Oh, that's what I want to hear.
Yeah.
That's what I want to hear.
Or the
Get in there
equivalent
with the
in Brazilian.
RoboCop.
He's ready, Joe. He said,
Oh,
the Demolition Man is ready to
God,
smash.
I can't wait. I'm sure there's some... You know what? Screw it. Get Hamzat in there. Get him in there. He wants to fight at middleweight. Get in there with RoboCop. If you're worth anything.
Wow.
That's right. I'm so hyped right now. Anyway, let's move on. Listeners, we'll be back next week. Thank you so much for joining us. And onwards and upwards for a great 2023, Tom.
Yep. Thanks for that, Joe. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.